I don't normally talk about things like this, especially on my channel and especially in this room, but considering the circumstances of this past weekend and the subject at hand, I'm going to make an exception. Around this time, about 10 years ago in 2007, the pro wrestling world lost Chris Benoit, also known as Wild Pegasus in New Japan and Pegasus Kid. Now, I'm sure everybody already knows about Chris Benoit and the tragedy that happened 10 years ago. So, for those who don't know, Chris Benoit was one of my favorite pro wrestlers back in the day when I was a teenager. Back in WCW and back in the WWF, WWE days. He, to me, when I was a teenager, I liked his style and the way he worked in the ring, his hard chops, his fast movements, his quick excellence of execution, much like Bret Hart, but he was more hard hitting, very quick on his feet, and he was just very intense with his style and his wrestling abilities. Much like how the wrestler that was influential to him was Dynamite Kid. And back in the day, like I say, he was one of my favorite wrestlers, along with like Sting, Shawn Michaels, and Diamond Dallas Page, and a number of others. And especially, I used to play as him on like the WCW and WWF video games. He was like one of the first 5 people I would actually pick. But then, like I say, he was a big favorite of mine in WCW. Then he jumped to the WWF along with Eddie Guerrero, Saturn, and Dave Malenko as part of the Radicals. When that happened, when I was 15 years old, just about to be turning 15. That was a big deal. Because seeing 2 guys that I remember seeing WCW jump to WWF, it was a big deal. Then he jumped around being Intercontinental Champion, jumped around being Tag Champion with a bunch of other tag partners like Kurt Angle, Edge, and I think Rhino. I think he tag team with Rhino. I know he tag teamed with him, but I don't know if he won the tag title. Someone message me in the comments. Then he went on to win the 2004 Royal Rumble at entrant number 1. And then he went on to main event WrestleMania 20 at Madison Square Garden when he fought Hunter Hearst Helmsley and Shawn Michaels for the WCW World Title. Yes, I still call that belt WCW World Title because that's what I remember seeing it as, and that's what I've always been calling it, WCW World Title. And also at that same event, Eddie Guerrero retained the World Wrestling Federation Championship against Kurt Angle. Then towards the end of the night, the 2 friends holding the 2 belts from the 2 different organizations in the middle of the ring as graffiti fell from the ceiling and fans were just giving a standing ovation. And this was also a big deal too around that time. It was a big deal because I was about to be graduating about 2 months away from the event because I was 19 at the time and I was about to be graduating. So, what better feeling than seeing one of my favorite pro wrestlers win the WCW World Title right before I'm graduating. So, yeah, it was a big deal, but it was also a very, how can I say, very much of a, it was a bit of a, like a turning point period, especially whenever everything in WWE was just not going very well, and TNA's rise to the top and everything. So I wasn't really paying too much of attention during that time. And then 2005, Eddie Guerrero passed away, and that was a very emotional and tragic time because Eddie Guerrero could have went like another 10 years or so in pro wrestling. Then, about 2007, 2 years after he died, Chris Benoit was found dead in his home. And I was 22 at that time, and during that time I had like an argument with my father. It wasn't my fault. It was on his. It was back when he was. Nah. Then find out Eddie Guerrero died. Then I just pretty much like apologized to my dad and said I loved him and everything. But this was before we found out what he did. Then when we found out that he committed double murder suicide, it just left me thinking, like, what possessed him to do something like that? What possesses anybody to do something like that? Like, it could have been like roid rage. It could have been some mental stuff that he's been going through, all the headshots and everything. But I'll tell you right now, I'm a Christian. I believe in God and I believe in Jesus. There's really no reason why anyone would want to commit suicide. That's one of the things that I really don't understand. Like, what causes somebody to want to kill yourself over something stupid? There's more to living than just like depression and everything. Chris Benoit should have gotten like mental help or something instead of, there's many other things you could be doing than freaking hanging yourself or killing yourself, you know. But him killing his wife and his son, that was just crossing the line. And especially when I watched New Jack's shoot interview along with him, the Iron Sheik, and the Honky Tonk Man, what he said was like really the nail on the head of what Chris Benoit's reputation should be known for. Like, he shouldn't be in no Hall of Fames. He shouldn't be, like, you know, praised as a... But at the same time, he did do a lot of contributions to pro wrestling. I mean, his style is very influential. He was a very influential guy to a lot of people, and a lot of up-and-coming wrestlers in, like, Ring of Honor and Japan and TNA. But like New Jack said, like, the day he killed his wife, his son, and himself, all the credit to him good goes out the window. And to me, when I found out about it, like, my appreciation for him just went like very, very low. And just recently, I've been watching like I don't want to sound hypocritical or anything, but I have been watching like a couple of his more like some of his old matches, especially from the Super J Cup that I just bought about a couple of years ago, the 94-95 Super J Cups, and his style was just, I'm just thinking to myself, what, like, if he was still alive, he could have been something better. He could have done something better. He could have been a trainer. He could have done a lot of things. But he did what he did, and it is a tragedy. It's a big tragedy, and it sucks. It sucks that guys like him and Eddie Guerrero and a number of other pro wrestlers have died. And they could have done so much more to the industry, to pro wrestling in general. Like, they could have been training more guys. They could have took some younger wrestlers under their wings. It sucks. But I'm just gonna end all this like I say, Chris Benoit shouldn't be in any kind of Hall of Fame, but to some people, like, you gotta separate the performer from the person, and there is a leeway you can do something like that, separating the person from the performer, because as a performer, he was top notch, and as a person, from what I've been hearing, he was a good guy. He was a good guy and everything, but what he did was very unforgiving. Very, what's the word I'm looking for? Something that you can't, if he was still alive after killing his wife and his son, he'd still be in jail People would still be talking shit to him and all of that. But if he was still alive and he never did all that, I swear to you, he probably would be in the Hall of Fame. He would be having DVDs being put out. He'd be being praised just like how Eddie Guerrero was if he died any other way. But like I say, it's a tragedy, and I'm gonna end on this Hope everybody has a better weekend and everything, but it just sucks that someone as talented as him and was given the world. It just sucks that how it all played out. I'm gonna check you out later. Hopefully, I'll have a better positive video than this. Check you out later.